friendship and how unusual it can be. Our next storyteller is the infamous Betty Ann Blah. And she's got a story that's very interesting. You know, there's this series on Netflix called The Crown, which is talking about our Queen Elizabeth II, who is still the Queen today. Now, you know that TV shows tend to stretch the truth a little bit, add in a little something to keep the story interesting. Well, Betty Ann's going to do the same thing. She's going to stretch it further into a fairy tale. Now, I want you to see if you can recognize the true events as she tells you this story, fairy tale. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Betty Ann.
Good evening. I call this story The Crown. King Ferdinand laid on his deathbed, pondering the future of his country, Everland. By law, the crown would go to his son, Prince Thomas. But the king, he didn't think that Thomas was ready for the crown, or maybe he didn't even want it. Thomas was 30 plus, and he hadn't settled down. A better choice would be Prince Henry. Henry was settled and serious. He had a wife and 2 little girls. But for better or worse, the crown would go to Prince Thomas. King Ferdinand said a prayer for his country and passed away. Now, King Ferdinand was wrong about Thomas. Thomas couldn't wait to wear the crown. He wanted to wear that crown to military parades where he could wear all his medals. He wanted to wear that crown to balls and parties, and he wanted to wear that crown to fancy dinners. But that crown got heavy when he actually had to govern and rule. He found all the paperwork tedious, and he found all his ministers and advisors boring. So when he wanted to let off a little steam, he took himself down to the tavern in the town, where the people there were more to his liking. They were laid back, and he could play cards and gamble and listen to the music. And that's where he met Esmeralda. Esmeralda came to the tavern to sing for money. She had coal black hair that went all the way down to her knees, and she had green eyes that sparkled like emeralds. And when she sang the first 3 notes, King Thomas was smitten. And by the last 3 notes, he was in love. And he proposed that very night. And Esmeralda, she said yes. Well, who wouldn't want to be queen? It's a no-brainer. But when King Thomas went back to the castle to prepare for the wedding, he got a lot of resistance from his mother, from his brother, from his sister-in-law, his advisors, his ministers. Even the servants weren't happy. Because you see, Esmeralda was a gypsy. And she was part of a family of gypsies that were famous for thievery. They were very sneaky. They would pretend to be stable boys and farm hands and maids and footmen. And before you knew it, a silver spoon was missing, a chicken, a goat, a sheep, and once in a while, a horse. But King Thomas had his way. He married Esmeralda, and pretty soon there was problems. You see, when someone was caught stealing, they were brought before the king to be sentenced. And when the first gypsy came before the king, Esmeralda moved over and said, "My lord, this man is my brother, and if you punish him, I will be so sad. I will go into my room and cry forever and be unavailable for you." So the man was let go. And then pretty soon a young gypsy woman was caught for stealing a spoon. And when she came before King Thomas, Esmeralda said, "My lord, this woman is my sister. You cannot punish her. If you do, I will be so sad. I will be in my room crying forever and be unavailable for you." Well, before you know it, every gypsy that came before the king was a relative, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, 3 times removed, and they all got off scot-free. Well, this emboldened the gypsies. What the heck? Why steal a spoon when you can take a whole place setting? Why settle for 1 chicken when you can take 2? And it went on. And horses, even horses which were punishable by hanging, went missing all the time. The citizens of Everland were up in an uproar. This could not go on. They begged King Thomas to put a stop to it. But King Thomas, every time Esmeralda said, "If you punish this person, I will be very sad, and I will go in my room and cry forever and be unavailable for you," he couldn't do it. And so the people took themselves off to Prince Henry, the younger brother. They said, "Henry, we got to get rid of Thomas. He just can't do this. He's ruining the whole country. You have to get rid of Thomas." "Get rid of my brother? I can't get rid of my brother." "Well then, we can hire an assassin. We can put poison in their food. Get rid of both of them at the same time. Or put them in a coach and push them over a cliff. It'll look like an accident. And then you can be king." Well, Prince Henry he wouldn't kill his brother. He ran to his brother and said, "The people are up in arms. They're going to hire an assassin to kill you if you do not take care of this gypsy problem. They're going to kill you." King Thomas gave it some thought. About 5 seconds. And he said, "You know what? You can take this crown and shove it. I'm tired of being told what I have to do and what I don't have to do. I love Esmeralda, and I want to be with her all the time. This is what we'll do. I'll abdicate. You give me, maybe half the gold, and Esmeralda and I will go away and tour the world, and you won't have to worry about us anymore." Well, they wrote it up, formalized it, and Prince Henry became King Henry. And when the first horse thief was hanged, it didn't matter that he was a cousin of Esmeralda, 3 times removed. He was hung. And that straightened out the gypsy problem. And there was peace in Everland again. And peace lasted for a while, maybe 2-3 years. And then, one night, the gypsies were back. And now they didn't bother sneaking around pretending to be stable boys and farmhands and footmen and maids. Now they came in bands of gypsies. And they even came on horseback. And they didn't steal 1 horse. They stole the whole herd. And they would find out which homes were the lord and lady were away from, and they would go in and pillage and ransack the place and take everything that wasn't nailed down. It was terrible, and the people cried to King Henry to please help them. And King Henry, he was in a quandary because he had to give half the gold to his brother. He cut the military budget. He didn't have enough soldiers. Plus, these gypsies were clever and smart, and they knew things. They knew where the gold was kept. And when he heard that they stole famous paintings, he thought, how does a gypsy know what's a good painting from a bad painting? And they knew exactly what to take, and exactly when the soldiers would be changing the guard. And they just do everything, and they would take half of their group and cause a disturbance in the town, and King Henry would send soldiers there, and meanwhile they were out stealing the whole herd of horses. King Henry thought, what I can do is I need help. So he went to the kingdom that was next to him, that was ruled by King Max, and he said, can you send me your National Guard? I'm short of soldiers, and I really need help. And you know what? If we don't do something about these gypsies in my country, the next thing they'll be over in yours. And so King Max sent over his National Guard, and with that help, they caught all the gypsies and hung them all except one. And more about him later. So there was peace in the kingdom again for a couple of years. But I guess the stress of being king did end King Henry, and he passed away. But that wasn't a problem, because by this time, his oldest daughter was old enough to take over and be queen, Queen Emma. She knew she was going to be queen someday, and her father had schooled her in the Constitution, and really what she was going to do mostly is follow the way her father did it. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there was peace in the kingdom under Queen Emma. And the years flew by. And one day, Emma got a letter from her uncle Thomas. And he said, Emma, I remember you when you were a little girl. The fun we used to have together. We always joked, and I let you come up on my horse for rides, and I miss home. I miss the place where I was born. I miss the people. Esmeralda and I, we want to come back. Can we come back? And, well, Queen Emma said, sure, you can come back. And Prince Thomas, came back with Esmeralda. I don't know what she was called, but they came back as a couple. And then Prince Thomas went to Queen Emma and said, Emma, I really want to give back to my country. I think that I can be of help to you. You know, you could put me in charge of the treasury. I could do that. I could take care of all the gold and everything in there. Or if not that, then I could be in charge of all the land, who gets what property. And maybe I could be in charge of giving titles out to worthy people. Or maybe I could be ambassador to the world. And Emma was willing to go along with this because he was her uncle, and why not give a job to family? But when she told her mother and her advisors, some of the older ones said, oh, no. This cannot happen. It would be terrible. No. And Emma said, why? And that's when we found out about the gypsy that got away. Because that gypsy had saved papers and maps to houses of the rich, lists of what were the most expensive things to sell, timetables for when the gold arrived, timetables for when the soldiers were eating dinner. All of it. All of it was handwritten and signed by somebody named Thomas. And more than that, the plan was that when Evinrude was depleted of everything and everybody was up in arms against poor little Emma, no, she wasn't queen then, Henry, King Henry, they would welcome Thomas back as king. Well, Emma thought about how to get even. And when Thomas and Esmeralda came before her, she said, I've decided that I am going to appoint you. I'm going to give you some land. It's an island in the middle of the ocean, deserted, where the two of you can be available to each other forever. The end.
That was a great story, Betty Ann. And I did see some similarities from the show The Crown. Next, we have Pam Miller. Now, Pam Miller's got a story about Cinderella, but not just the Walt Disney version. This is about